Hi, everyone. November 16, 2019. I'm going to go through some information to show you what has become of the American people, what has become of the United States of America, and yeah, our frequencies, electromagnetic frequencies coming from so many sources: cell phones, cell towers, Gwen towers, satellites, HARP and HARP-like stations, electromagnetic gadgets up the wazoo, smart meters and Wi-Fi. Maybe because the American people, well, they ain't right. That's a saying in the South. They ain't right. Something has radically changed. And with electromagnetic frequencies, these external frequencies being emitted, they can change people, and there is an awful lot of evidence documented to prove what I just said. New legislation will throw people in jail for disrespecting cops? Yep, seriously. Monroe County, the legislature there, 17 of Monroe County legislative officials voted for it, to throw people in jail or fine them $5,000 for annoying a cop, or alarming a cop, or threatening the personal safety of an officer. Annoying. Wow. Well, that is really subjective, and the cop simply has to say, "You annoyed me. I'm arresting you." Something wrong here? Yes. Yes. In the land of the free, the First Amendment in the U.S. Constitution explicitly prohibits the government from abridging the freedom of speech. Guess what? Our freedom of speech is pretty much gone when we have legislation coming out of local, state, federal government that is like this, similar to this. You know, you are no longer living in a free country. Where are the American people? What is going on? They must know some of what is taking place in this country. A Michigan man, 83 years old, underpaid his property taxes by $8.41. The county seized his property, sold it, kept the profits. How do you do this to an 83-year-old man? Americans doing to Americans. Americans are not right. They act with such glaring immorality in psychopathic ways. They don't care what they are doing to their fellow Americans. These are the people that need to be called out. These are the people that need to be fired, that need to be called out, that need to be shamed. But I'm not confrontational. I'm a nice person. Guess what? We're at war, and Americans are making matters worse for Americans and leaving them destitute, acting in ways that they could give a damn what happens to someone else. If I were in a position working for any government and I was told that I had to foreclose on an 83-year-old man's house, anybody's house, for $8.41, I would have opened up my wallet and given them the $8.41. But I will tell you, there's no way in hell that I would have done this. I couldn't do it. I'd quit my job if I was so ordered to do this. What's wrong with Americans that they are doing this? But this is not the first. This 83-year-old man in Michigan, there have been others. Elderly Americans losing their home for chump change. So the delusion that we are just such a caring, compassionate people, that really needs to be shattered in your head. All right. San Francisco just passed legislation saying urinating in public is fine. Nah, you're not going to be arrested for it. But how about eating a sandwich?
I'm on the
You're not even on bar.
I just explained to you that you were detained. Let my shit go, bro. Did I not? Bro, let my shit go. You are detained and you're not free to go. That's part of that. Bro, you come up here and fuck with me. You single me out out of all these people. You're eating. Bro, so what? It's against the law. So what? I tried to explain that to you. Let my shit go. It's a violation of California law. I have the right to detain you. No, you don't. Yes, I do. Can you please let my backpack go? Are you going to cooperate?
Yeah, we're...
Are you cooperating? Leave me the fuck alone? You're going to jail. I'm not going to jail for eating a fucking sandwich? No, for resisting arrest. I'm not resisting arrest. You are resisting. I haven't done anything wrong. I haven't done nothing wrong. I've done nothing wrong. I've done nothing wrong. Let my bag go.
Just let
my bag go, bro. What is this nigga doing, bro? Let my bag go. Bro, bring him up here.
stop.
I'm not.
Okay, what's wrong with that cop? There's something wrong with Americans, and I've been saying this for 8 years, and I get slammed. It's not the American people. It's the elite. It's the crazy psychopaths. They're doing all of this. No. Oh, you cannot bring a country down if you have a genuinely moral people. You can bring it down easily when you don't have a people that are moral. So many people like to think they are, but they're not. Well, they have to keep their jobs. Really? Oh well. Then we go down. Oh boy, man. Okay. A family faces jail time for living in an RV on their own property to repair home after fire. The Navaris, Madison, Minnesota, Michigan, no, Minnesota, actually Mississippi. Okay. Oh, when states have the same names, oh, all right. Madison, Mississippi, the Navari family, devastated on Christmas Eve when a fire, well, what is the cause of that fire? Based on something that the wife said, leads me to believe that it could have been started by a smart meter. I don't know this for sure, but let's see. Let's just listen to her in the very beginning.
Video ever. Patrick is the one who said, Mom, you need to do a blog. You need to tell people about what's going on because nobody knows. And he's right, nobody knows. I haven't put anything here on Facebook. Yes, we did a GoFundMe to help us with getting a trailer. But for those of you who don't know, we had a fire on Christmas Eve. It was an electrical fire. It started in our breaker box. We were just getting ready to make Christmas dinner, and all of a sudden you heard these like zzz sound and pow, 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 and our breaker box caught on fire. Now, those of you who know, you know that I like Christmas lights. So, of course, I thought for sure I had done something. It wasn't anything I had done. It was a loose wire that was determined in our breaker box. Christopher and Rich both were taken to the emergency room for smoke inhalation. I was here with the firemen, and they were trying to put the fire out. I've never experienced anything that was as scary as that before.
I will link below to everything. You can listen to what this woman has to say, but what is going on here? All right. Of course, you know, you have these devastating experiences of losing your home due to flood, fire, whatever. And then you have to battle the insurance company that you have paid through the nose, those premiums. Then you got to battle with the insurance company because they try everything that they can to not provide the services that they claimed they provide. Well, what is wrong with Americans? Not too moral, right? You can't be a moral people when everything comes down to money. When money, material success is the only thing that's valued. All right, so they have this fire, they lose everything. They got permission from the city first, and they were approved to put the RV in their driveway while they repaired their home. We called the alderman. The mayor was aware of it. We were told as long as I was approved by the Homeowners Association Board, then we could get a temporary permit. And they were okay with it. They were approved. They got the permit. Oh, but then there was that heartless board member who reneged on that decision and made their life a living hell. The next thing we knew, we got a letter from a board member saying it was against the covenant. They were not able to change that. They felt sympathy for us, but we needed to leave. We needed to leave. Get out. This was a bona fide emergency. What we are going through could happen to anyone in our neighborhood or others, but city officials could care less about a family emergency, and the family is now in violation of city ordinances which could land them in jail. The city actually sent enforcers out to the property to threaten and intimidate the family. Rich, who's the father and husband, while Rich was standing in our driveway, a truck sped up and parked in front of our driveway, and a guy jumps out. An employee of the management company starts taking pictures while he is saying and motioning with his hands, "You were supposed to leave by the 15th, and I'm reporting you today." People are acting in ways that they would never have acted, behaved, not too long ago. Why are we seeing people not giving a crap about what they do to people? They behave in such gross, immoral ways. Why do we see this more and more? Is it the true face of Americans? Perhaps. Is it because we don't hold anybody accountable? And when we don't hold people accountable, what happens? They just continue to do whatever the hell they want, not caring about the consequences they cause other people. Hey, but they got something. Well, it's time, don't you think, to hold people accountable? But I'm just not a confrontational. Give it a break. I mean, we've been social engineering one another. When you hold somebody accountable, what happens today? You are the one who's attacked, as if you have done something wrong. Well, if more and more people were holding others accountable for their incredibly egregious, immoral acts that cause so much harm to other people, people would think twice. But yes, we do have those frequencies. Electromagnetic frequencies act kind of similarly to psychiatric medications, warps your reality, and you are suddenly left unrestrained. How you would behave ordinarily without these frequencies or psychiatric medication is completely different than how you would behave on medication or being manipulated by these frequencies. And you don't care, because these frequencies and psychiatric medications, they cause an apathy. And they leave you in a state where, oh yeah, you've got emotions. Anger, anything can trigger you, but the emotions are a communication. They're your internal communication with yourself. So, when you feel shame, that's a good thing, because your emotions, your feelings are telling you that you've done something wrong, and you're less likely to do it again. When you're robbed of that due to medications or these frequencies, then you're behaving in ways that you just don't care what happens to other people. Okay. People need to be snapped out of their trance, because if they're not, more and more people will be harmed by those people who will jump out of their car and say, I'm reporting you today. Get out of your driveway. It's your driveway. But that doesn't matter, right? Because you really don't own property anymore, certainly not in a homeowners association. Okay, Berkeley instructor, rural Americans are bad people who have made bad life decisions. What? How are people saying what they are saying today when years ago they would never say what they're saying? Now, is this instructor part of the Agenda 21, Agenda 2030, climate change agendas, moving people into cities? May very well be, but doesn't matter. This guy needs to be shamed for saying on Twitter, which apparently caused a real uproar, and he took it down. Okay, but what did he say? Bad people who deserve uncomfortable lives. So that Twitter post was deleted, but he explained his Twitter post on his website. I unironically embrace the bashing of rural Americans. They, as a group, are bad people who have made bad life decisions. Some, I assume, are good people, but this nostalgia for some imagined pastoral way of life is stupid, and we should shame people who aren't pro-city. Sounds like, yeah, he is part of the agenda. Get people to move into cities where they are so easily controlled, surveilled 24/7. But how is it that somebody could possibly keep their job after saying like that? This instructor, he teaches multiple philosophy courses. It's a hateful thing to say. Hateful. But if you speak the truth, you're considered hateful. You confront somebody who's behaving in a way that we all know is bad, wrong, immoral, and hurting other people or other species, doesn't matter. But you're wrong. So everything is flipped on its head. We got to flip it back. And yes, it does take courage, especially today when, oh my God, you call somebody out and you get attacked. They go on fine, but you're left feeling like you've done something wrong. You haven't done a thing wrong. You've done what is right. You have done what is morally responsible. So, he also tried to explain his tweet with, how much healthcare costs, affordable healthcare for rural Americans. He said he believed it would mean they have to be subsidized by those who choose a more efficient way of life. Oh, really? And people in the city are not subsidized? What? Now, he doesn't factor in all of what is taking place in our country. Does not factor in that our life is controlled externally. The economy is controlled externally. There is a deliberate agenda to bring this country down. No, he's not going to factor in any of that. He's just going to blame the individuals who are needing help. That's what we do. We don't look to what is happening, the big picture. We instead blame individuals for their circumstances when those circumstances were brought about externally by others. So we heap more shame on people who have been brought down. Great. Now that is a really moral people. So he said rural health care should be expensive, and that expense should be borne by those who choose rural America. We've never heard things like this before. People lived in rural areas and they were fine until the controls started to tighten up. The controls, the external controls, to force people out of these areas. He said it should be uncomfortable to live in rural America. It should be uncomfortable to not move. America's rural communities, which tend to be older and poorer than urban areas, usually face more challenges than their urban counterparts in accessing healthcare, internet, other services. Well, greed is a major factor in why Americans are hurting. But we're not going to look at that. Just move out of those areas, get into the city, as if life is going to be better for you. Really. The next day, after the tweet was deleted, he tried, I guess, to make an apology that, well, I made a bad post and that he would reflect on it. There's something wrong with an individual who writes this, communicates it publicly. It's so disgusting and hateful and it's just so reprehensible. It's mind-boggling. And reflect on that bad post. You better reflect on who you are. But, oh, right, you don't think you're as crass and mean as what you wrote. Really. That's also the American way. Oh, I think I'm just a wonderful, good, moral person when I... Okay, hang on for 1 second. What is going on with you? Yeah, life has become a meow. Okay. Yeah, they like to think fabulous things about themselves, but how they behave and how they live shows that what they think and what they do don't match. It doesn't match. So, you need to reflect on more than just that comment. Oh, I feel like cursing, but I'm not going to. All right. This is what happened to Glenn Greenwald on a news show. I guess debating a Brazilian journalist.
covarde. Você é um covarde. Eu vou falar porque você é um covarde. Você é um covarde. Eu gosto de nomes. Você é um covarde. Que isso? Que isso?
People are unable to restrain themselves today. Okay, Arizona. Tucson cops.
Only on KOLD News 13 tonight, we are getting a look at explosive new video of a controversial arrest involving a Pima County Sheriff's deputy and a 15-year-old who has no legs or arms. Good evening and thanks for joining us. I'm Dan Marties.
And I'm Brooke Wagner. This video shows the deputy wrestling the teen to the floor. We do want to warn you the video you're about to see could be disturbing to watch.
KOLD News 13's Bud Foster joining us live at the Sheriff's Office along Vincent Highway with more. Bud.
Well, Dan, I showed that video to the Pima County Sheriff's Department just a little while ago. They had not seen the video before, and once they watched it, they did begin an internal investigation. Now, this incident happened a couple of months ago, but that video is just now coming to light. We were able to get our hands on it today, and as you said, it's going to be rather explosive.
And then they have an exchange, and he gets in his face.
And he curses at him.
You consider that egregious?
Yes, absolutely. Imagine you're this boy with no limbs who just got tackled by this large man with a badge and gun, and this man is now screaming in your face, and he's now threatening your friend who has the temerity to record this whole incident. Absolutely, that's egregious.
The 8-minute video begins with a deputy on top of the 15-year-old boy, wrestling him to the floor with shouting and swearing. Later, it also shows that same deputy arrests the 16-year-old boy who shot most of the video.
He's eating the bowl of cereal. He puts the bowl of cereal down. He puts his hand behind his back, and now the deputy's going to slam his head into the wall.
And he's completely restrained at this point and is not trying to resist arrest.
It doesn't look like he's doing anything.
Just for good measure, let's slam his head into the wall.
We watched the video with the public defender, Joel Feynman, and with his chief assistant, Megan Page, in their office.
I would be horrified if an officer treated my children this way, and these kids are already in the traumatic situation of being in DCS custody, and they're not even in a stable home environment, so I think it's absolutely horrific.
We showed the video to the Pima County Sheriff's Department Internal Affairs late this afternoon, which would not allow us to tape that. It was the first time the department had seen the video. It was not aware that it even existed, and as would be expected, they were non-committal.
It's difficult to really predict, but obviously there are a number of outcomes that could occur.
The only outcome is fired and arrested for assault. How do you tackle a 15-year-old who has no limbs and then in his face cursing at him? That boy was abandoned. Abandoned. And we wonder why the children, American children, are behaving in ways that shows that, well, they don't really have the kind of behavior that we saw in children decades ago, but they're behaving in ways where they don't care about anything. Maybe because they're treated like they're not worth anything. This happened. A Popeyes drive-through changes to YouTube's terms of service will take place on, channels that are not commercially viable will be deleted. Well, this is the world that we're living in.
Shoot, but he's not even black. You're hungry? Fuck you, bitch. Fuck you. And I'll fucking kill you too. It is like wow. He's not even black. You're fucking dumb. Get in your fucking car, bitch! Get in your fucking car! Get in! I'll fucking knock you out right now! You fucker! I'll fuck you up, nigga! I'll get in your fucking car! Pussy! They're fucking pussy! Don't ever hug me, nigga! Don't ever hug me, you pussy bitch! Eat your fucking food! I got this nigga fucking haunted in me. Cause y'all motherfuckers are trying to
Well, I mean,
fuck that shit. I got to this nigga just beating up on her man.
yeah, because they got into it in the car before that. We heard her cussing at him in the car, and then he had to smoke a cigarette to cool off.
He's a good man, and you treat him like shit. You're a piece of shit.
Oh!
Fuck you. Whore! Get in the car! Get in your fucking car! And you know what else big in the street?
Well, he does have a point.
You're an ugly little bitch. Stop! Fat ugly bitch. Stop! Oh. Fucking please just stop. Come here, stop.
Oh, they're about to get into it. Well, she does treat him like shit. Because we heard it. And, oh, she can't afford to go to jail. Now, which one can afford to go to jail? Like, wait a minute. This is bad. Oh, get in the car.
I'm so glad we decided.
Oh, so she's the one. She's the one. Oh, shit, he done pushed her. Oh, you can't do that. Oh, Lord. Oh, Lord. You can't do that. Oh, Lord. No, you can't do that. Yeah, he's kind of psycho. He done called white people to live in at 2G. Oh, Lord. I'm so glad we decided to get you a chicken sandwich. Oh.
The commentary is amusing. Where did this lead? Oh, yeah, it led to blows.
Oh, now, wait a minute. Now it's a girl fight. They done throw shoes. Oh, Lord. What is happening? Oh, they done all fell down. Wow. What? Wait a minute. Oh, this is Popeyes. What is happening? You better stay. Oh, Lord. Wow.
All over a chicken sandwich.
All over a chicken sandwich. Oh, they got the big boy. Look at the big boy. They better give him some free chicken sandwiches.
Okay. I will link below to everything. You can watch the full videos and read the articles, but something is very wrong with Americans. Triggered and violent. Now, I've seen this kind of stuff in my own apartment complex. The police are here far more often, and things are going down. And it's only going to get crazier. There was another school shooting in California, Saugus High School, but the shooter didn't fit the profile. Well, he was an honor student. He had a girlfriend. He was an athlete, and he was liked, and people are shocked. Could it be frequencies injected into somebody's brain? Because yes, they can do it, as outlandish as that sounds. You know, we hold onto these cell phones. We talk to people now. It's kind of like we're living the Jetsons. Baby boomers, remember the Jetsons? We're living that now. We don't understand how it works, but we will deny that they can use these frequencies to cause people to behave in violent ways. Okay. Shot 2 students, 16 years old. Don't know all the details, but a 16-year-old girl died, and he died. More suicides. Suicide at crisis level. Is the environment playing a role? Of course it is. All of the pesticides and herbicides and the poisons, and our water is poisoned, and our air is poisoned, and food doesn't sustain our health anymore. But the Wi-Fi and the cell phones and the cell towers. and the antennas all over the place, and the satellites, and the HARP and HARP-like facilities all over the world, the saturation is affecting people greatly. Have you noticed that the people are crazy? People around you starting to take over our society? All right? Yeah, in order for a society to function properly, we need to be able to assume that people are going to behave rationally. And when I was growing up, this is Michael Schneider's article, when I was growing up, it was generally safe to make that assumption. Yes, me too. I'm sure a lot of you agree with that. But now things have completely changed. No matter how hard one may try, there is simply no avoiding the hordes of crazy people that seem to be taking over our society. It is almost as if millions of us never learned the basic rules for how civilized people should treat one another. Sometimes this manifests in behavior that is simply rude. Other times it manifests in behavior that is actually dangerous. And if you are really unlucky, you will personally encounter someone that has fully embraced depravity on a level that most of us never even want to think about. So, this picture was taken by a woman on an airplane. Yep. All right. What the hell is wrong with that person who's putting their feet up on her headrest? It's going to be a long flight. Who would do something like that? Who? Well, Americans are, well, as they say in the South, they ain't right. So, here, after having a pleasant evening out with friends at a authentic Thai restaurant, a man randomly pulled Heidi Van Tassel out of her car, dragged her out to the middle of the street, and dumped a bucket of feces on her head. It was diarrhea. What is wrong with people? A woman is sentenced to 7 years in prison for slashing a man's throat in front of his family at a Taco Bell after he asked her to stop ranting at employees for taking too long on her food. Have you noticed that people seem to be triggered a lot more easily than they once did? These days, saying the wrong thing can get you, well, violently attacked. All right, another woman writes on Twitter that she stole a white woman's purse, I guess. A white woman spawned out of nowhere today and started being homophobic to me, so I stole her purse, and now Miss Thing IDs is resting. Oh, Miss Things ID is resting in a Target trash can, and her money is paying for my tacos and rent. Got 126,000 likes on Twitter. Okay, you can read more of the craziness that is taking place in people. I'm going to end this video with this. Shit. Didn't mean that, but... Non-ionizing electromagnetic fields effects on the brain. All of these are links to studies and articles. The effects on our brain, making us crazy. All links are below. I'm going to start my next video with this right here. But this is something to bookmark, to circulate, and it sure shows an awful lot of effects on the brain, and this is not the full list.